Touch ID versus Face ID. Now, I actually did a I did a poll on Twitter um, about this as well. Let's do our votes first. So, me, I think everybody knows this. I prefer Touch ID to Face ID. What about yourself, E?
I mean, I prefer an in-display fingerprint sensor. Yeah, I like Touch ID, of course.
Okay, so here's the thing, right? So I did a poll on Twitter and on Instagram as well, and we're looking at roughly 65% of people said they prefer Touch ID over Face ID, and we had like, I don't know, was it 10, 15,000 votes, which I think is a decent sample. Um, would that have been different had I asked that question before the pandemic?
Yes, I think so. I think it would have skewed differently before the pandemic, because if you kind of look at when Apple introduced Face ID and how a lot of Apple users kind of they embrace it fully. A lot of people said, well, it's cool. I can always raise it up. And some of us had talked about how great it was, but having a fingerprint sensor still is just a simple, straightforward. I don't have to look. I can put my finger somewhere and it's good. And I think the pandemic has really stressed it. I mean, today I was out. I was doing some shooting with the iPhone, and whew, man, because you have a face mask on, like every time I put in my number code, and I'm like, oh God, I just wish I had a fingerprint sensor. It would be
Oh
so
yeah.
much easier.
No, I think the face mask thing really does kind of and as far as we can see for the foreseeable future, we will in some form still have to wear face masks. So I think, but for me, even before that, Touch ID was always more convenient, right? And the example that I always gave, which I'm not sure everybody can relate to, but I'm somebody who uses my phone a lot in bed, right? So before I go to sleep, I'd probably, listen to a podcast or just kind of browse through, catch up with messages and things that I haven't done during the day. So that's what I'll do. Now, sometimes I'll kind of like, have my face halfway in the pillow and I'm trying to like unlock my phone and it's not unlocking and I'm like, oh, after like, or say for instance, I wake up in the middle of the night and I just want to quickly check something, whatever. I have to, and it's just like, if it's Touch ID, I can just press it and I'm there, right? And this is one of the
Yeah.
reasons why I don't like optical in-display fingerprint scanners, such as what we've got on the OnePlus, because those actually shine a bright light to be able to scan your
Yeah.
finger, and they actually blind you. So you're like, well, what was that? And you just kind of like, just wakes you up completely. Whereas, Touch ID, whereas if it's an ultrasonic in-display fingerprint scanner, or if it's a physical fingerprint scanner, it's actually much, it's much less intrusive, shall we say. The thing is, what I've been saying since the iPhone 10 release with Face ID is what would be super cool would be if Apple had the Apple logo on the back of the iPhone as a fingerprint scanner, potentially in addition to Face ID, right? And I think that
Oh
would
yeah.
be such a good solution. I don't think they're going to do that, and one of those reasons maybe because they've got the whole MagSafe thing in the back. But I do think because of the pandemic and everything, I think iPhone 13 they will be looking at certain solutions in addition to Face ID. I would think though, because your face is more secure than your fingerprint. I can't remember the exact figures, but as far as I know, it's much more difficult to spoof your face. And I'm not talking. I'm talking when you've got a proper Face ID scanner like you have on the iPhone, which projects like 30,000 dots on your face or something like that, right? Now, because of the whole pandemic and this whole change that we've had, I think Apple will potentially, I mean, I've heard some rumors of an in-display fingerprint scanner, but also maybe the side power button, right? Because if we look
Like
at the
the
iPad,
iPad, right?
yeah, so the iPad Air, the new iPad Air, they've now incorporated Touch ID into a much smaller surface area compared to what we've had previously. So I think that would be, again, another absolutely fine solution in addition to Face ID. So if you are in the supermarket, you've got a mask on, it just makes it that much easier.
Now you just mentioned, there's rumors they might be an in-display, fingerprint sensor. The question here is, one, Apple can easily develop their own, but would you take advantage of their newfound friendship with Qualcomm and maybe utilize the ultrasonic, especially because it's very discreet. Um, I'm just saying, I'm putting that out
I
there
wonder.
because that technology can be sold separately. It doesn't have to be tied to a Qualcomm chipset.
I wonder because 3D Sonic Max still hasn't come, right, to any flagship, has it? Or actually any device.
It should be coming this year to the Galaxy because they said the area is increased. That is basically that's 3D Sonic Max. It's just that
It's a larger area. It
Samsung,
allows two
yeah,
fingerprints.
Samsung was the only one who picked it up because of the initial issues with the first
Will
launch
it be on
of three.
will it be on the S21 though?
If it's a larger area, then yes.
Okay, because I just did a leaks and rumors video today, and that's no, I didn't find any reports around that. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll find out next week.
I mean, we'll find out when we get our hands on the device and play with it. We'll see if it's it's a larger
Yeah.
square area.
We'll see. We'll let you know soon. I hope you enjoyed that clip. If you want to hear the full podcast episode, then that will be linked down below. And if you want to see more clips like this, then be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you don't miss them. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on SuperSaf Speaks, and I'll see you next time.